Influencers don't promote the basics because the basics aren't sexy. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. But a quick reminder, if you would please click a like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you are not following or subscribed, please do so. And if you will be kind enough to drop me a comment down below the video, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. And what I mean by the basics, I'm talking normal exercises, big movements, even if they're machines, followed by isolation for things that need it, to work heads of muscles that maybe got understimulated. So a perfect example, if your side delts got understimulated from your other shoulder work, then, doing some lateral raises with a dumbbell, a plate, a cable, a machine makes sense, right? If you did a bunch of pressing and the long head of your tricep is lagging, obviously some extensions to work that are a good idea. Okay, same thing. Maybe you're doing deadlifts and other stuff, and part of the biceps femoris, one of the heads, obviously there is a little understimulated. You may want to isolate the hamstring a little bit with some knee flexion. Okay, this stuff makes sense. Like, this is common sense. But the basics are what build your muscles, what build your strength. It's for men and women too, But what we see are people doing little silly things. They're adding tons of things just to sell nonsense to people. This is where we start seeing the women putting the hip circles on, right? Which literally does nothing. Okay, it does nothing beneficial. There's no reason for those hip circles. And when these people are like, well, I feel a little more glute. No, you don't. You actually are feeling your hip adductors when those hip circles are on, which are already being worked. It's a tight, much smaller muscle. It doesn't need direct training. So again, the same thing, people trying to isolate that. They'll do like the little side raises. And this is completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. This gets worked by all your big movements. It's too small of a muscle for you to notice it. Okay, so let me be clear. It's one of those muscles you'll see. That's a beautiful example. You'll see all these lady influencers telling all these other women to do this, and they do all this little stuff for that little adductor on the side. You're aware that that is a tiny muscle, and you can't see it unless you're absolutely shredded. Okay, I don't mean just six-pack lean. So you take the average woman who's doing that, for you to even see that muscle, let's say you get lean enough to see all of your abs, your full six-pack, you probably need to lose another 10 to 12 pounds, maybe 15, before you'll be able to see that muscle. So you're doing all that work for that little nonsense. And there's no point. That muscle gets all the stimulation you need from your squats, your deadlifts, your glute bridges, hip thrust, all that stuff you're doing, your leg presses. It's already getting more than sufficient stimulus. Same thing, they'll do stuff for abduction of the inner thigh, the groin, literally barbell squats, pack squats, deep leg presses, especially with a moderately wide stance. Build the heck out of that muscle. Like, you are not building it any further with that. And I'm not saying there aren't things you might not want to isolate, right? So maybe if you really want the rectus femoris of the quad to grow, that's where some isolation might matter, because that head of the quad doesn't grow as much. It doesn't get full stimulus from a squat or a leg press or a lunge. Okay, fair enough. If you want it to grow, fine. But this is what we mean by nonsense. Hey, instead of just doing barbell and dumbbell rows and weighted pull-ups and weighted chin-ups, you'll see all these experts, and they're not really experts. Oh, we could take this and do a cable in one arm and do a twist. You're doing literally nothing. You were probably building less muscle doing that than had you just grabbed a free weight and done a full normal range of motion. Let me be clear. There is zero evidence that is doing anything for any part of your back. I would argue it's probably less. Had you just stuck to the basics, you would have gotten better development instead of doing that nonsense. The same thing you'll see, well, what I'm trying to do is do a one-arm cable pull down with this handle to line it up with the line of pull in the fibers. Really? Because it's on the other side of a joint. So take a pulley over a cable and try to pretend like you're lining up with the line of pull. Do you see the nonsense? It's on the other side of a joint. Okay, so your line of pull is going over to, no matter what angle you do it, it still has to pass through the same point on the shoulder joint. You're not affecting that. Plus, they're only looking at the insertion. If you look at the origin of the lat, there's almost like 50 degrees of angle variation along where it inserts along the spine. You're not going to do that. This is again, utter nonsense. Complete and utter nonsense. No point at all. Right? You're not even going to isolate the lats. The closest thing you're going to get to maybe isolating the lats, meaning if you're trying to take the biceps and stuff out of it, maybe some sort of, I guess, what do they call it? Like the pullover effect. I forget what the exercise called of the cable. Like a straight arm press down, maybe a pullover. But that all works other muscles. So you're just not working the bicep, but then you're going to work the long head of the tricep and other stuff. Your arms and stuff are still involved. Right? Your pecs are going to be involved. So you're never going to, you can't isolate the lat. That's one of the muscles that you're just simply not going to isolate. It cannot be done. And there's no point in trying because no one has ever failed to build an absolutely amazing back with pull-up and row variations. Like, it's just not a problem. There's never been an issue for anyone. All right. People worried about the smallest pinky twists. I literally see people, if you just take your hands here versus here on a press down, it's going to change the range of motion, but it's not changing the joint angle specificity. So people will focus on silly nonsense that has no impact. I mean, I've seen stuff like that, and they're like, well, see, the hand swings through a longer range of motion, but their joint went through the exact same number of degrees. So as far as the muscle's concerned, nothing. All that means is that you'll have to use a hair lighter weight to get the same reps because you just created a small leverage disadvantage on the end of like a jack, basically, right? Think of like that type of lever. So this is what I mean, guys. This is all nonsense. None of this is doing anything. Either you're working a muscle or you aren't. If you know what the muscles do, then realize also these little small twists and things that people are doing really equate to nothing. And oftentimes they're reducing your gains because they're reducing the total loads that you can work with for stuff for no benefit. If it did something, maybe, but it doesn't. The basics work, and the basics have always worked. But again, they don't want you to know that because then how much silly nonsense can they sell you, right? How much silly nonsense can they sell you? They can't. You do that because they're not really that knowledgeable. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.